If you're living outside the U.S., new Social Security rules could impact your benefits, and some countries are now off limits. In this video, you'll learn exactly what's changing and how to protect your payments. If this matters to you, please like and stay informed. If you're living outside the U.S., recent changes to Social Security rules could have a significant impact on your benefits, and it's crucial to understand exactly what's happening. The Social Security Administration has updated regulations that may restrict payments to beneficiaries residing in certain countries, affecting thousands of retirees and seniors who rely on these essential funds. This isn't just about geography. It's about ensuring you continue to receive the benefits you've earned without interruption, and understanding these changes now could save you from financial hardship down the road. For many Americans living abroad, Social Security and Supplemental Security Income, SSI, are vital sources of income that support daily living expenses, health care, and peace of mind. Whether you've retired to a tropical beach paradise, moved closer to family overseas, or simply chosen a country with a lower cost of living, these benefits often form the foundation of your financial security. The recent rule changes highlight the importance of staying informed and compliant with the SSA's requirements to avoid any unexpected disruptions. Even a temporary suspension of benefits can create serious challenges when you're managing expenses in a foreign country, especially if you're on a fixed income. Knowing which countries are affected and understanding the criteria behind these restrictions can make all the difference in safeguarding your financial stability. The rules aren't always straightforward, and what applies to one type of benefit may not apply to another. Some beneficiaries may find themselves caught off guard simply because they weren't aware of the specific requirements or the nuances of how residence abroad affects their payments. That's why we've put together this comprehensive guide to walk you through everything you need to know. In this video, we'll walk you through the exact details of the new rules, explain how they could affect your benefits, and offer clear guidance on what steps you need to take if you currently live or plan to live overseas. We'll cover everything from which countries have restrictions to how payment methods work internationally, and what you should do if you receive a notice from the SSA. This information is essential because it empowers you to make the right decisions and maintain your benefits without confusion or stress. You've worked hard for these benefits, and you deserve to understand how to protect them fully. By the end of this video, you'll have a clear understanding of how the Social Security Administration's policies apply to you, so you can confidently manage your benefits no matter where you call home. You'll know exactly what documentation to keep, how to communicate with the SSA from abroad, and what warning signs to watch for that might indicate a problem with your payments. Let's dive in and get you the facts you need to protect your income and your future. If you're living outside the United States and counting on Social Security or Supplemental Security income benefits, this video is especially important for you. Recent changes in Social Security regulations have introduced new restrictions that could affect where and how you receive your benefits. Understanding these updates can help you protect your income and avoid interruptions that could affect your financial stability and daily quality of life. The impact of losing benefits, even temporarily, can be devastating when you're living thousands of miles away from the U.S. support systems you once relied on. So let's take a close look at what's changing, why it matters, and what you can do to stay on top of it. First, it's important to know that the Social Security Administration, or SSA, has long had rules about paying benefits to individuals who live abroad. These rules aren't new, but they do get updated from time to time to address changes in policy, international agreements, and compliance concerns. The framework governing international payments has evolved over decades as more Americans choose to retire overseas and as diplomatic relationships between countries shift. For many retirees and seniors who choose to live overseas, whether for lifestyle, family, or economic reasons, Social Security benefits are a crucial part of their monthly income. Some people move abroad to stretch their retirement dollars further in countries with lower costs of living. Others relocate to be near children or grandchildren who have settled in other countries. Still others are drawn to specific climates, cultures, or healthcare systems that better suit their needs. Regardless of the reason, these benefits remain a lifeline. SSI benefits in particular are designed to help low-income individuals and seniors meet basic needs. But unlike Social Security, retirement, or disability benefits, SSI payments are generally only payable to people who reside within the U.S. or in certain U.S. territories. This fundamental difference between SSI and regular Social Security benefits often confuses beneficiaries, and understanding this distinction is critical to planning any international move. SSI is a needs-based program funded by general tax revenues, not Social Security taxes, which is why the residency requirements are much more restrictive. So when the SSA updates rules or clarifies which countries qualify or disqualify residents from receiving benefits, it can have a direct and immediate impact on the lives of beneficiaries. A change in policy that seems minor on paper can translate to real hardship for someone who depends entirely on that monthly payment to cover rent, food, and medical care. If you're watching this and live abroad or plan to, you need to understand the current landscape and how it specifically affects your situation. Let's start with Social Security, retirement, and disability benefits. According to SSA guidelines, these benefits can be paid outside the U.S. in most countries, but there are exceptions. The good news is that the majority of countries around the world do allow Social Security payments to be sent to residents. However, the SSA maintains a list of prohibited countries where payments cannot be sent. This list is based on the absence of bilateral agreements or other legal restrictions, as well as U.S. Treasury Department sanctions and other federal regulations. Currently, countries like North Korea, Cuba, and Syria are examples where Social Security payments are generally not allowed to be sent. These restrictions exist for various political, diplomatic, and legal reasons that extend beyond the Social Security Administration's control. If you live in one of these countries, your payments may be stopped or withheld until you relocate to an eligible country. The SSA warns beneficiaries living in these prohibited countries that continuing to reside there can result in a suspension of benefits. It's a serious matter because many retirees count on these monthly payments to cover housing, health care, and daily living expenses. Imagine planning your retirement budget around your Social Security check only to have it suddenly stopped because of your country of residence. This is why advanced planning and research are so important before making any international move, even if you're just considering it as a possibility. Now, for those receiving supplemental security income, the rules are even stricter. SSI is only payable to beneficiaries residing within the U.S., including the 50 states, the District of Columbia, and the Northern Mariana Islands. If an SSI recipient leaves the country for 30 consecutive days or more, their payments will stop. This 30-day threshold is firm, and the clock starts from the day you leave U.S. territory. Even if you're traveling for what seems like a temporary vacation, if it extends beyond 30 days, your SSI benefits will be suspended. If you're someone who receives SSI and plans to travel or move abroad, it's vital to understand this limitation because it affects your eligibility and the continuation of your benefits. Unlike Social Security retirement benefits, which can be paid in most countries, SSI simply cannot be paid to anyone living outside the designated U.S. territories for more than 30 days. This is not a loophole or exception. It's a fundamental rule of the program that cannot be waived. Let's walk through some practical scenarios to make this clearer. Imagine a retiree named Mary who has been living in Costa Rica for several years. She receives Social Security retirement benefits monthly. Since Costa Rica is not on the prohibited countries list, she continues to receive her payments without interruption. Mary has set up direct deposit to her Costa Rican bank account, and each month her benefits arrive on schedule. She's been diligent about keeping her mailing address current with the SSA and responds promptly to any questionnaires they send her. However, if Mary decided to move to Cuba, her Social Security benefits would stop because Cuba is on the prohibited list. She would need to notify the SSA and possibly make arrangements to live elsewhere if she wants to keep receiving payments. This could mean choosing a different country entirely or even returning to the U.S. The point is that Mary's choice of residence directly impacts her eligibility to receive payments, and no amount of explanation or extenuating circumstances would change that fact, as long as Cuba remains on the prohibited list. On the other hand, consider John, who receives SSI benefits due to low income and limited work history. John lives in the U.S. but wants to visit his family in Italy for a few months. If John stays in Italy longer than 30 days, his SSI payments will be suspended for the duration of his absence. This rule means that SSI beneficiaries need to plan their travel carefully and stay informed about the impact on their payments. John would need to return to the U.S. before the 30-day mark to maintain continuous benefits, or accept that his payments will stop and will need to be reinstated once he returns. The reinstatement process isn't always immediate either. John might face paperwork requirements and processing delays when he comes back to the U.S., meaning he could go weeks or even months without income while the SSA processes his return to eligibility. This is why understanding these rules before making travel plans is absolutely essential for SSI recipients. So, what happens if you find yourself in a prohibited country or out of the U.S. for too long? The SSA allows beneficiaries to resume payments once they return to an eligible location. However, there may be paperwork and processing time involved. You'll likely need to provide proof of your current residence, possibly submit new banking information, and complete verification forms to confirm your identity and eligibility. So it's best not to assume that benefits will restart automatically without some action on your part. Being proactive and contacting the SSA as soon as you return to an eligible location can help minimize any gap in your income. Another important factor to consider is how you receive your payments while living abroad. The SSA encourages beneficiaries outside the U.S. to use direct deposit or electronic funds transfer to a local bank account where available. This method is more secure and faster than receiving paper checks, which can be lost in international mail, delayed for weeks, or even stolen. Direct deposit ensures that your money arrives on time and is immediately accessible to you without the risks associated with paper checks crossing international borders. Many countries have agreements that allow direct deposits, but if you live in a country without such agreements, you may face delays or difficulties accessing your funds. In some cases, you might need to have your benefits deposited into a U.S. bank account and then transfer the money yourself to your foreign account, which can involve fees and currency exchange complications. If you're unsure whether your country qualifies for direct deposit, the SSA website has updated information you can check, or you can contact the Federal Benefits Unit at the U.S. Embassy in your country of residence. It's also crucial to keep your contact information and address current with the SSA. Failure to report changes can result in delays or even suspension of benefits. The SSA periodically sends out questionnaires to overseas beneficiaries to verify their eligibility and residency status. These questionnaires are not optional. They are a critical part of maintaining your benefits. Responding promptly and accurately is key to avoiding interruptions. Some beneficiaries have had their payments suspended simply because they moved and failed to update their address, meaning they never received the verification questionnaire. One subtle but very important detail involves citizenship. To qualify for Social Security benefits, you must be a U.S. citizen or a legal resident who meets certain eligibility requirements. If your citizenship or legal status changes while abroad, it could affect your benefits eligibility. This is especially true if you hold dual citizenship or have complex residency arrangements. For example, if you renounce your U.S. citizenship while living abroad, this could have serious implications for your Social Security benefits, depending on your specific situation and the type of benefits you receive. Now, let's talk about the totalization agreements. These are international treaties the U.S. has with various countries to coordinate Social Security coverage and benefits for workers who divide their careers between two countries. While these agreements primarily affect how your work credits accumulate, they can also influence eligibility and payment rules. The U.S. currently has totalization agreements with more than 25 countries, including Canada, the United Kingdom, Germany, Australia, Japan, and many others. For example, if you worked in both the U.S. and Canada, a totalization agreement helps ensure you don't lose credits or benefits due to working in two countries. Without these agreements, you might not have enough credits in either country to qualify for benefits, even though your combined work history would be substantial. If you live in a country with such an agreement, it might ease some restrictions or make it easier to receive benefits while abroad. Understanding whether your country of residence has a totalization agreement with the U.S. can help you better plan your retirement and understand your benefit eligibility. Throughout all these rules and details, one thing remains clear: staying informed and proactive is essential. The SSA updates its policies and lists periodically, so what applies today could change in the future. A country that's currently on the prohibited list might be removed if diplomatic relations improve, or new countries could be added if circumstances change. Similarly, the specific rules about payment methods, verification requirements, and eligibility criteria can evolve as technology advances and international agreements are updated. If you like this kind of content and want to stay ahead of important updates affecting your benefits, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more helpful guides. We're committed to keeping you informed about changes that could impact your financial security. Before we move on, it's worth mentioning that the SSA's official website is the best source for the latest information. You can also contact the Federal Benefits Unit at U.S. embassies and consulates for help with your benefits if you're living overseas. These offices can provide guidance on forms, eligibility, and payments to ensure you're compliant with all rules. They can also help you navigate country-specific issues that might not be immediately obvious from reading general SSA guidelines. Let's take a moment to consider why these rules exist. They're designed not to penalize beneficiaries, but to comply with legal and administrative requirements. Some countries may have restrictions on sending government payments, or the U.S. government may lack agreements to verify residency or eligibility, which are necessary to protect the program's integrity. The SSA needs to ensure that benefits are going to the right people and that recipients are actually alive and eligible, which becomes more challenging when beneficiaries are scattered across the globe. So while it can feel frustrating, these rules aim to ensure that Social Security benefits reach the right people at the right time. They also help prevent fraud and misuse of the system, which ultimately protects the sustainability of Social Security for all beneficiaries present and future. Understanding the reasoning behind these rules can help you approach compliance with the right mindset, seeing it as a necessary part of protecting a program that millions of Americans depend on. Another practical tip for beneficiaries abroad is to keep track of your earnings and report any work or income you may have while outside the U.S. The SSA requires that benefit recipients report earnings to avoid overpayments or penalties. If you work abroad and earn income, it could affect your Social Security benefits depending on your age and the type of benefits you receive. For example, if you're receiving early retirement benefits before your full retirement age and you continue to work, your benefits may be reduced if your earnings exceed certain thresholds. The earnings test applies regardless of where in the world you're working, so international employment doesn't exempt you from this requirement. Failing to report earnings can result in overpayments that you'll eventually have to pay back, plus potential penalties. It's much better to be transparent about your income from the start and let the SSA calculate any necessary adjustments to your benefits. For seniors who might be considering a move abroad or already live overseas, you might be wondering about health care. While the SSA doesn't provide Medicare benefits outside the U.S., knowing your Social Security status helps you plan your health care and finances accordingly. Medicare generally does not cover services outside the U.S., with very limited exceptions for emergency care in Canada or Mexico under specific circumstances. So understanding your benefits and country-specific healthcare options is important. Many countries have excellent healthcare systems that are more affordable than in the U.S., which is one reason retirees choose to move abroad. However, you'll need to research how to access that healthcare, whether you can get private insurance as a foreign resident, and how much it will cost. Your Social Security benefits need to stretch to cover not just your living expenses, but also your healthcare needs in your new country of residence. Let's circle back to a common question. What if you receive a letter from the SSA telling you that your payments will stop because you're living in a prohibited country? The first step is not to panic. Instead, review the letter carefully and contact the SSA or the nearest federal benefits unit. They can clarify your situation and advise you on next steps, which might include changing your residence or making arrangements for payments to be sent to a different address. Sometimes these notices are sent because the SSA's records are outdated or because there's been a misunderstanding about your actual location. Perhaps you traveled to a prohibited country temporarily, or maybe your last known address was in a restricted location even though you've since moved. Whatever the case, communication is key. Don't ignore the letter hoping it will resolve itself, because the SSA will suspend your benefits if you don't respond. For anyone receiving Social Security or SSI benefits, keeping a close eye on official communications is crucial. Scammers sometimes try to exploit beneficiaries with fake letters or calls pretending to be the SSA. Always verify communications by contacting the SSA directly through their official phone numbers or website. The SSA will never threaten you with immediate arrest, demand payment and gift cards, or ask for your personal information via unsolicited phone calls or emails. If you receive a suspicious communication claiming to be from the SSA, hang up or don't respond, then contact the SSA yourself using the phone number on their official website or on your benefits statement. This is especially important for those living abroad, as scammers may target expats who might be less familiar with how the SSA typically communicates with overseas beneficiaries.